Hello and welcome to Creating the Vision. I'm your host, Maria Maldonado Smith, and I have with me someone who is super amazing and super cool. I am a huge fan of hers, actually a really big fan, and I will tell you why, because I'm going to have her introduce herself, but I actually do want to introduce her first, just share a little bit about who she is and what it is that she does. But my guest today is the fabulous Amanda Nighbert, who is a 46-year-old. You do not look it. You don't look a day over
Thank
35.
you.
Like a registered dietitian specializing in weight loss nutrition. Her passion and purpose is to empower others to break the all or nothing mindset and find sustainable change for long-term weight loss success. She's presented this powerful message on the TEDx stage, March of 2021, with 20 years of knowledge and experience under her belt. She provides upper level nutrition education and support to everyone she works with. I have personally been a part of her program, Lean. It is her custom program. It's a range of coaching services and multiple shop offerings. She has cultivated a brand that focuses on giving participants the leading tools and resources to help them reach the best versions of themselves. Amanda's goal is to provide the most current cutting edge nutritional techniques that not only provide results, but are sustainable in life. I am so excited for today's episode because I have been a fangirl of yours for quite a while. So probably since 2019, 2020, I would
Yeah,
say. And you saved my life during the pandemic. I lost 25 pounds during the pandemic. Thank you, Amanda.
love that.
So yes, I just want to dive right in. I know we talked a little bit before we started this session, but tell us just about you, about what it is that you do and kind of how you have created this vision for your program, Lean.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. So, I'm Amanda Nighbert. I'm a registered dietitian, obviously with a passion for health and wellness. And, I've been on this entrepreneurial path and, creating my ideal vision of my life for probably the last 20 years. And really was around my 40th birthday. So, about 7 years ago, when I was just like, I'm either going to keep doing the exact same thing that I'm doing now today. I was a registered dietitian in a hospital setting, 9 to 5. I'm going to make the same salary because there was absolutely no room for, professional development or, financial growth in that, kind of space. So I'm either going to stay here for the next, 20 years until I retire, or I'm going to do something different. I'm going to step outside my comfort zone and I'm going to try to create something on my own. And that's kind of what I did. I just took really my passion for health and wellness and leveraged social media. It's like, I'm just going to start posting on social media. I'm just going to start showing up, providing valuable content and see if I can turn this into really a secondary stream of income. I tell people my initial goal, what I felt like would fulfill me in my life was if I could just travel more. I wanted to be able to have the extra money that would allow me to take two fabulous vacations a year. And I did not have that, back when I was at the hospital setting. And so I was like, if I could just make maybe an extra $1,000 a month, I could take two fabulous vacations,
Mhm.
a year. 7 years ago, that got you a lot, maybe not so
Yeah.
much today.
Right.
And that's really what I started out,
Mhm.
that was my goal, is just to, make that extra $1,000 a month, to have that extra income to travel. And, basically jumped in this kind of online space. And to say I was, shocked and surprised at, the outcome of that is an understatement because,
Mhm.
within 6 months, I was making, three or four times my salary. Within a year, I left my corporate job and just kind of like went all in on, this, my own program, Lean, which stands for Living Energized and Nourished.
Well, I love your program and I definitely do want to talk about your program, but I love what you I love what you said because it resonated with me. It resonates with me so much. And I think with so many people, even, who listen or who are thinking, I think we all come to that crossroads in life where we're like, we're either going to keep doing what we're doing or we're going to take the next step to go into a different direction. And what was crazy is when we moved to South Florida, we moved a lot. We've moved a lot in the past decade. And we were unboxing some boxes, and I happened to find, it was the summer of 2019. Our kids hadn't started school yet down here, and we were just kind of in like prep mode, getting everything, the house ready. I mean, we had like 3 weeks to turn this, like the house into a home for them before they started on their academic journey. And I found an old journal, like cleaning things out. And in one of the journals, it was from when I was 27 years old. Was clearly had, I guess, writing it when I was nursing my second child, my oldest son. And I wrote on one of the pages, goals by 40. And the first goal was to leave corporate. And it was like, I knew then, and I point that out because you mentioned like this was kind of 20 years in the making. Like you might kind of had known that it was there, but maybe hadn't taken that step. And I think that was me. And we moved here and I realized, I'm a year and a half away from my 40th birthday. Am I anywhere near making this happen? I better get moving on this if this is something that I'm going to turn into reality. Because I had a goal, back when I was 27, this is
Right.
what I was going to do. But I think so many people so often in life, they come upon those milestones, they come upon those questions, and out of fear, they choose to not take that path. And what would you say to that person who's like, I don't know. I might just stay where I'm safe.
Yeah, I mean, just do it. It is. And I mean, I know that that's easier said than done.
Mhm.
For me, it was always like, I kind of did it in a safe space. I was like, well, I'm not gonna, just totally quit my, job and
Mhm.
put all my eggs in one basket. It was more of like, again, creating that just kind of small goal, and
Mhm.
seeing if I could kind of build on that. But I think that at the end of the day, it's like when you have that kind of gnawing inside you for something that you're really passionate about, you can't lose. I
Mhm.
mean, it's going to be a lot of hard work. There's going to be a lot of, ups and downs, but you're just going to feel so much more fulfilled in the long run doing that hard work than,
Mhm.
where you are kind of in a dead end situation. So just do it.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and one thing that too, I really try to at least highlight or focus on are some of those like really high moments where you're like, I know now, like I'm reaffirmed that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And some of those, even the lower moments where you're like, oh gosh, I don't know if this is the path that I should be on. Are there any of those moments that stick out for you that was kind of like the peak, and then the ones that maybe not necessarily had you questioned, but that you just were like, wow, this is not a spot that I maybe expected to be in or anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's like you think you know what you're going to encounter as you begin this journey, whatever that may be. And I feel like for me, it was the unknown things that I had just not even considered,
Hmm.
as I was kind of growing this business. For example, I started out and it was just me, but then as I grew and I grew clients, it was like all of a sudden I was like, I can't do this alone. So
Mm.
then, I'm just a registered dietitian, delivering nutritional content, supporting people on their health and wellness journey is effortless for me. I'd been doing it for 20 years in the hospital, but creating like an HR department, I knew nothing about.
Right.
And so, there were moments at that point where I was like, I am way in over my head. I have no clue what I'm doing. And can I do this at that moment? But you figure it out. You kind of muck
Mhm.
through it. I always say I feel kind of blessed when it comes to the situation of the pandemic, just because I feel like it allowed people got a little bit more flexible with their expectations in terms of
Mhm.
how stuff was delivered. And, now we Zoom everything. And,
Mm.
stuff can be a little bit more homegrown now versus what we were, dealing with before. And that kind of took a lot of pressure off of me to be perfect, and just to try to muck through some of those, areas of your business in which I realize I'm not an expert in, to kind of figure out.
Mhm. Yeah, I know we were talking a little bit before about social media and just how I think, what did you say? It said it can, so you mentioned something about what it can do to an entrepreneur. And I'm like, oh, we definitely want to talk about that.
Yes, it can take an entrepreneur down.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
because again, I actually
Yeah.
work with other health and wellness professionals that are trying to grow their own businesses,
Mhm.
and I think we all agree, like, working with clients is the easy part. That's the fun part. That's the
Mhm.
passionate part. That's where we get, joy from. But finding the client, getting the
Mhm.
client to sign up is the work,
Yes.
is the hard work. I mean, whether you're a brick or mortar, or you're running like online services. That is where I feel like entrepreneurs in a similar space as me, where we spend a lot of time. And that stuff is grueling, to, stay on top of. I mean, when I launched my business in 2017, we had Facebook and Instagram, and, we were doing Facebook Live was very new. I remember I would do tons of lives, which was so scary to show up,
Mhm.
live on those platforms, nothing, curated or pre recorded or edited. And I got really good at it. And then as soon as I got good at it, it changed,
Right.
So now,
Yes.
long form videos are worthless. And so now you have to constantly be like, reinventing yourself. And so now we're on
Mhm.
the ADD, fast paced 10-second, 15-second, 30-second clips where we're dancing like monkeys, and you just kind of have to try to stay, relevant and with the
Mhm.
trends. Again, if your goal is to leverage that a free media, social media, to grow your business, and it's a challenge.
Mhm. It's something that I always tell people, and you said it so perfectly, is that the joy for me is working with people. I love when I can work with clients, when I am in a group setting, presenting to a group of people. Like, that is my joy. That's when I know I shine. That's when I feel my purpose being fulfilled. It's like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. And then you come home from that and people are like, oh, well, are you going to share the highlights from that? Are you going to put that up on social media? I'm like, ugh, I'm like,
Yeah.
you just killed all of my joy from everything that I just went and did. But to your point, I've worked with so many clients and I have done a really terrible job of presenting the clients that I have worked with for that reason, because it just sucks the joy out of me. And so I am in the process of budgeting in for 2024 and a social media, a monthly person, someone who literally will just like take the baby and run with it, Jesus, take the wheel, my social media wheel, and you go with it. So I
Well, keep me
understand.
posted if you find
Yeah.
someone good.
Yes, I will. And that's the thing, is I know I'm going to have to still be a really big part of it, but I think that there are things that I identified as an entrepreneur that I knew I was really good at and that I enjoyed doing, and then things that I'm like, nope, don't like doing this. And I got to figure out a way quickly to pivot or to plan, more accordingly so that it doesn't like suck the joy out of me. So I took a 2.5 month break on social media this summer and just spent time with the kids. And I enjoyed following, you know, checking in with accounts that I hadn't for a while, just because I kind of was in this mode of just posting and then getting off and just trying to kind of like just do the thing, like check the box,
Yeah.
and I found myself, checking in more, with people, not through social media. So it was good for me in that way. But at the same time, I came back and now I'm kind of getting back in the groove of it. It's definitely been a chore for sure. But I do enjoy sharing. And so I think that that's where I've tried to paint that perspective for myself is the joy for me comes in educating and sharing my passion for what I do. And so my mindset has had to shift. And so, kind of speaking of mindset and using that as our pivot, Lean is such a fascinating and amazing program because I am someone who had always had like nutritional plans written for me. When I was competing, I really never did any of the thinking for myself, sadly. And I honestly kick myself now because after going through your program, I'm like, wait, hold on. I could have done a lot of this. Like, I could have applied everything that you teach and like done this in my life. Like, oh my
Right.
goodness. Right. Like, what was I doing this whole time? And so you really help create a totally different mindset for people. And where I think, interestingly, our two worlds collide and align is that one of the most common personal goals that people write down when they work with me is they want to get healthier and they want to be well. It is one of the number one things. And then I always remind them, do not make this a New Year's resolution, something that because I'm vehemently against them, 92% of people fail them because, and I know you probably have all of the stats on why, but when you're changing that mindset for someone, like how do you help them kind of create that vision?
Yeah, I mean that it is you are correct. I mean, when we look at the life we want to create, it's probably you have financial goals, you have health and
Mm-hmm.
wellness goals, you have relationship goals, you have spiritual goals. So, health and wellness plays a huge role in that. And I think that, when we feel good, we do good. I mean, it is very much like a trickle down effect. When you feel like
Mm-hmm.
crap, it really weighs on every other area of your life. So, I'm not surprised that, health and wellness is always at the forefront of, everyone's, kind of wish list. And unfortunately, the narrative around health and wellness is very much all or nothing. You're either all in, you're 100% keto, you're doing the 21-day fix, you're not drinking, you're perfect, and you see results. But in the long run, and the reason why people continue to, I mean, especially when it comes just to like your weight, it's like we gain and lose the same 20 pounds over and over, is because we just never focus on consistency. We're only doing the work for the results. And I have found just in my experience is that is the number one thing that you have to do in order to change your health and wellness is to change your mindset around doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
People are unwilling to do the work if they're not making progress. They see it as it's not working, but in reality, the problem is I had a friend, and she kind of talked about it in the form of like chasing your ace. It's like you flip the cards, okay, and you're chasing that ace, and you just have to keep turning over the cards. You just have to keep doing the habit until you find that ace. And if you are 10 cards in and you're frustrated because you haven't found that ace yet, well, giving up is not going to get you any closer to that ace. You just have to keep going, and that's what people do, is that they end up kind of giving up. So one of the biggest things that we focus on in lean is just breaking that all or nothing mindset, that progress not perfection,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that you
I
don't
love that.
have to be perfect to be successful. You just have to be consistently good. So recognizing that nobody's perfect. If you follow me on social media, I try to make it a point to show up often in my imperfect form.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, yeah, my favorite, line is I ate like an asshole. I screwed up this weekend, but here I am. I'm like back on
Mm-hmm.
track. It's not like I need, mad science to, figure out what do I do after a weekend that I'm off track. Well, I go back to the foundational, work that I do every single day, because the way that I was over the weekend is not my norm. So it's like changing the
Yeah.
norm from, destructive habits that you do consistently to healthier habits,
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that in addition to that, you can't do it all at once. Yes, maybe on January 1st, when everyone's set their goals and we're all going all in, we make tons of changes. for the next 30 days. But a lot of times, again, you're unable to create consistency because the changes in which you're creating are unsustainable. Yes, you can do them for a short period of time, but they're not feasible to be done forever. So again, it's like looking at the small things, picking one thing at a time to improve on, because it's just like you said, it is the path in which you are on. If you look at the habits that you did yesterday, how you ate, how you exercised, how you fueled your body, whatever it may be with regards to your health and wellness, do you feel like those habits are going to take you to the place you want to be? I think for a lot of people, they'd say no. I know that
Mm-hmm.
though I cannot do that on a daily basis and expect to be where I want to be. So it's about shifting those daily habits so that if I do, X, Y, and Z, I'm at least on the right path and moving in the right direction to the person that I want to be.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is like church for me. I feel like you're like speaking my love language, just because in the goal setting space too, and I think it's something you probably deal with as well, is that I always tell people, the goal is, yes, the goal might be the destination, but it's everything in between that matters. I mean, getting to the end of the race is great, but what did you learn along the way? And if you learn nothing, then really you're just going to start over, and you're going to keep doing the same thing and not processing the fact that you had to create certain positive habits to get there. And you're right. I think that one of the things that we have so often, and I definitely was raised under that all or nothing mindset, especially when it came to nutrition and coaching, because I was competing, and it was like, if I don't just, for these next 4 months, I literally cannot eat a singular carb, or
Yeah.
I won't be able to fit into that evening gown that I so desperately want, to fit into. And I didn't really learn until after I started having kids and then wanting to drop, baby weight, that I realized actually, oh, wow. So this isn't just like competing in a pageant, it's not, there isn't just a finite amount of time. And then I've like checked the box. So I had to shift my entire mindset and way of thinking to one of being more consistent. And motherhood forces that upon you too, because no 2 days are alike. And so you realize very quickly something's got to change. Like either my approach or my attitude towards this has to, or what I'm doing has to change. And I love that you talk about progress, and not perfection, because especially with women, I feel like we get it in our minds, and I don't know why. It's almost like it's innate in us. It's like it's I don't know if it's just that steeped in society and in our just has permeated our culture, to the fact that like girls just grow up and have this like, all, if I'm not perfect, then forget it, then I'm not good enough. I'm not even enough at all. And when it comes to health and wellness, especially, one thing, because I always tell them I'm not a registered dietitian. I always point them in your direction though, because I'm like, listen, you need to follow this woman. She's freaking fantastic. She's amazing. And I love that you do paint the true reality of what it's like to have obstacles that come in your way, or that you say, you know what, I've planned vacations into my life, and damn it, if I'm going on this vacation, I'm going to enjoy myself, because that's the point of living. It's not to just be perfect all the time. We have to have those moments where we can let go and just live.
Yeah. I mean, amen to all of that for sure. And a couple of things just to piggyback on that. It's like I tell clients, I was like, listen, your health and wellness, there is no finish line. You know,
Mm,
it
yeah.
there's no end. Like you might win the race. I always say losing the weight a lot of times is the easy part. Keeping it off is the
Hmm.
hard part. So yes, you may win the race and get to your goal, but then now you've got to sustain it. And that requires, nearly the same amount of effort and sacrifice and commitment as getting there in the first place. So again, it brings me back to just always encouraging people, like, you need to learn to do the work regardless of the results,
Hmm.
because you're not going to have, that cheering section, or you're not going to have that finite, period where you have that destination. So the ability to kind of show up and do it has to just be a habit,
Hmm.
what you're doing.
Yes.
And yeah.
And I always tell people too, any client that I work with or group, I always say that's why it really is strong for them to understand. Like you have to have a strong why for why you're doing it. And so when I talk like goal refinement, which is just that process where we break it down. Okay, you want to lose 20 pounds, but like why 20 pounds? Is that just because like you just really want to lose 20 or you need to, like clinically? And half the time they're like, no, I just think that 20 is like a number I can achieve. Okay, so you've achieved this number before. Well, no, I've never achieved it before. Okay, well, then why don't we start with just the first 5 pounds? Like, let's start there. Because,
Exactly.
yeah, and I'm sure you deal with this all the time because to your point, it's like we put this goal down, but what we don't realize is like we have to honor that goal. We have to honor the commitment to it. And so often when we think in such larger numbers, and to some people, 20 pounds might not be, they might need to lose 100. Okay, so 20 is
Right.
not that terrible of a number. But to others, losing 20 pounds is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to lose 20 pounds. So you have to find what works for you, but you have to break it down in a way that you can actually honor that commitment. And that when it does get tough, it's rooted in your why. Like I'm doing this because I want to be the healthiest version of me. How do you deal with clients who really struggle with like seeing themselves, 6 months or a year out? Like if they have a long journey, what does that look like for them?
I mean, I think very similar to what you're kind of talking about. It's like you've got to break it down into smaller, goals.
Mhm.
What's the saying? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time?
Right.
And getting them to recognize, yes, okay, maybe 100 pounds is our big goal, but let's start with the first five. Let's start with the first 10. So I think that that's really important first and foremost. And then, also getting people to realize that at the end of the day, especially when we talk about, weight loss, I always really try to get my clients to look beyond like the number on the scale. We've got to have other goals. Like, let's get stronger. Let's be able to do a push up,
Mhm.
a true push up, or, let's get our step count up, or, other things like that we can kind of work towards improving ourselves on that are not just related to the scale. So it's kind of having multiple areas that we're addressing in our kind of health and wellness. Like, let's focus on having more energy, let's focus on sleeping better, let's focus on body image, how we view ourselves. I always say, you need to love the person you are today in whatever place you are in order to be able to get to a better version of yourself. Because if you're constantly degrading and beating up the person that you see in the mirror, then again, it's like that mindset. Are you worthy of this transformation? Are you worthy of this progress? And when you're at war with your current self, it just makes it so much harder.
Mm. Oh, that is so true. That is so true. And I don't know that I love that you just shared that and addressed that and talked about that because interestingly enough, when I started out to do this podcast, we were talking about like, well, what are some of the goals you want to achieve by doing this? Like what's the mission, the vision, the purpose? Like what's the value you want to bring to people? And so much of what you just said is exactly where I feel compelled to really address is that worthiness and because it gets in so much of our own way that we don't realize and I think sometimes even our fear is really an underlying layer of I'm just not good enough. Yes, I'm scared. I'm scared as hell of what that might do for me or to me if I took that path, but I also just deeply feel like I'm probably just not good enough. Like it's just not, that's not for me. And I think we mask it sometimes with that fear. But, and so in the space that, I help people, it's so much of uncovering like why they feel the way that they do, because we are our own barrier sometimes to accomplishing, the goals and dreams that we want for our life. We want to create this vision, but we just are, it's like we're handcuffed, for some reason to whatever thoughts or perceived, perceptions that we have about who we think we are or could be. And I love that you just pointed that out because I feel like that is something that we don't focus on enough. Just like we don't focus on like the mental aspect of, our mental health and kind of how, and all the positives that you mentioned, there's so many great benefits to, you know, yes, the number on the scale going down is great, but being able to do those push-ups, those squats, the, running a sprint, or even heck, doing a walk run, 5 minute walk, 5 minute run, like those are all incredible milestones that we don't and should not ever discount, because those are things that we got better at doing that
We
we
should celebrate. Yeah.
yes,
You know,
yes.
I always say, like, there is no greater critic than yourself. I
Hmm.
mean, it is powerful. One of my coaches, she kind of works in that mindset space, and she always likes to say, would you say that to your daughter? Would
Mm,
you say that to your friend? And we wouldn't. Like, we would never
right.
be as cruel to others, to our daughters, our friends, as we are to
Mhm.
ourselves. But it's like acceptable for us to just be, so cruel, to the person that we are. And I don't think a lot of women realize how detrimental that is. When we talk
Mhm.
about the life in which you're trying to create, it is about identity. And that's one of the things that, we kind of focus on is, like, in order to create these habits, you have to be able to identify. In my space, it's like, I want you to identify as a healthy person. I
Mhm.
want you to identify as someone that can run a mile. I want you
Mm,
to
mhm.
identify as someone that can, optimize their eating, because the minute you have that kind of self-doubt, or even you're in that mindset of, like, well, I'm working towards that. No, that is who you are. You want to
Mhm.
be that now, not later. The the more impactful the journey is, and the more likely you are to, sustain the progress. It's like with smoking. If you quit smoking, you can look at it as in two different ways. If someone offers you a cigarette, you can say, no, I'm trying to quit. And there, in that statement, you identify as a smoker.
Mm,
Okay. But if someone offers you a cigarette and you say, no, I do not smoke, you now identify as a non-smoker, which
mm.
is what you want to be.
Yeah,
And it's just
that's so
little shifts like
powerful.
that change the path in which you're on.
Mhm. Yes. Those little small, like you said, those small mindset shifts create such monumental differences in your overall thinking when you are faced with those difficult moments. I mean, it's yeah, and for I will say that I've gone through your program, and I continue to utilize what you teach. And it is so valuable because I just think about it in anything. It's like the more I mean, I think learning from you, I remember one time you had provided a resource to me, a book called The Unhealthy Truth. And I remember reading that book and being blown away by the concepts and just, whoa. It's just a fantastic resource. So for anyone
That book
listening,
changed my life,
yes, very, very much so. Very much
and
so.
in the course
Same
of
for
how
me.
I look at nutrition and
Hmm.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of those almost like kind of like those lies we were told when we were younger, right? And like this is what a balanced, nutritious meal looks like, and it completely flips that script, on its head, and you realize, oh my goodness, like if I have we have so much more power than we give ourselves credit for, and we have so much more strength and ability and knowledge. We just don't apply it sometimes because we do get busy, we're working, and sometimes it's easier to have someone do the work for us. But one of the things I always say to people is when you invest in yourself, like you are giving yourself such a gift. Like you are saying to yourself that you are worthy, you are worth it, because I'm willing to invest my time, my focus, my energy. And I always say too, like financially is that's when you got skin in the game, so you want to make sure that you're getting your money's worth. And I loved diving into all of the recipes. My husband and I now are firm believers that we could totally live a vegan life if we if we did have more time. It's just easier sometimes to cook a chicken breast and that become our source of protein. But no, and I mean I really do. I'm really thankful because I think you really helped me shift my mindset from an all or nothing approach to one of, okay, I've got this. Like I actually can I can have my weekend date night. I don't have to forgo that and put that off for 2 months to lose 15 pounds to then reward myself with a date night. You know, I can actually just be consistent Sunday through Friday, go on my daggone date night, and then get right back on first thing Sunday, Saturday morning.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, because again, we're all striving for that perfection. So many people, will kind of go out on a date night and maybe even have really good intentions, like, oh, I'm very dialed in. I'm gonna get the salad and say no to the wine, and I'm gonna mind my P's and Q's, and then life happens, and you end up indulging. And for so many people, that kind of triggers the might as well mindset.
Mm,
I'm like, oh, well, it's Friday night. Look at me. I already blew it. Might as well have brunch, Saturday morning with pancakes and mimosas, and might as well eat that cake, and might as well have pizza and beer for dinner, and then might as well start fresh on Monday. And that is what sabotages your progress. It's not the date night that did it. It's the mindset that you feel like the date night did it. So
mm,
therefore, you give yourself a free pass to, indulge in all ways, for the rest of the weekend or the rest of the week or the rest of the month, whatever it may be, until you get back on track. And again, if you find yourself in those scenarios, because I always tell my clients, I'm like, think I'm like on your shoulder, think of me, and I'm sitting there going, don't say might as well. So anytime you in your brain are saying about to say might as well, snap out of it, because it is what you do, after that meal that really makes or breaks your progress. And it's hard. That's not easy to do, to change that way of thinking, to realize that, one meal, one weekend, even one week does not make or break your progress or your success.
mhm,
Again, it's just about your either consistent habits or lack thereof that ultimately dictate what path you're on.
mm. And that is so true in so many aspects of our life. And that's what, and I think that it's like health and wellness is one of those that if we can tackle that, I always tell people I love when they put it on there because I want it for them so badly. I'm like, I want you to achieve this because I think you will understand better how important it is then to start achieving this other things in your life and applying those things and understanding that your why isn't that you need to lose 10 pounds for your friend's wedding so that when you take those pictures, you don't feel a certain way. Girl, if you're 10 pounds, heavier at that time, you should go and have fun at that wedding and have a blast because you are you. So it's really so much about shifting that mindset of, but if you want to make this a goal because this is something you want to focus on, then great, then let's do it. But understand there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be those ebbs and flows. I really appreciate that message so much because I do have a daughter who's almost 16, and so much of what I say to her, actually things that I don't even say to her when I have made comments and she has said to me, you know, don't say that. You look beautiful. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, you're right. I do. I am beautiful. I do look beautiful. You're right. Thank you. And because I am empowering her so much to believe in who she is and everything else that she brings to the table outside of her, physical appearance, I want her to focus on being healthy. I want her to, it's not that, and I think that's another beautiful shift too. It's like from skinny to healthy. And I do feel like hopefully, and fingers crossed that we are changing that narrative for our daughters.
Yeah. Oh, and that's a whole nother,
I know.
a whole nother topic that I'm super
Right.
passionate about, with a young daughter who's 14. I mean,
Mhm.
we're in kind of this weird space in health and wellness where it's almost like it's taboo to talk to our daughters about nutrition and healthy eating, like that we're going to set them up for, disordered eating and, whatever. And I'm very much opposed to that. I mean, in
Mhm.
my household, we have very open dialogue about, I mean, I will tell them point blank, those hot Cheetos you're eating are not good for you. Okay. I
Mhm.
mean, and framing in the mindset of like not good for your health versus, good for your waistline is
Right.
obviously very important. But here's the deal. like 14-year-olds don't care about, cardiac disease, and they don't care about diabetes,
Right.
they care about how
Right.
they look. So
Yeah.
sometimes you tackle like, well, your acne would be so much better, if you ate
Mm-hmm.
better, and your mood would be better, your period cramps would be better, so there's a lot of different ways that we can address the impact of health related to nutrition that's not just about weight. And, I agree. I mean, these are conversations, but in terms of building them up, like regardless of what you look like, and if you have acne or whatever, like just go take over the world. Like, who
Mm-hmm.
cares? I think is a very powerful message here we are as women, like this is what we want for our daughters,
Mm-hmm.
yet we don't feel like we're worthy of that same
Mm.
message for ourselves,
Selves. Yes.
and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
spend all our time like lifting up our children and our, yeah, again, just even female companions, but yet deep down in our side we are not worthy for that, and that has to change.
100%, 100% agree. No truer words have been spoken. I truly believe that is the recipe for our success as women is truly believing our worthiness and not just, so easily putting it off on, well, that's good for them because they deserve that,
They
but
deserve it.
I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I could talk to you all day. We could talk for 2 hours. At the beginning, we're like,
We're very
hey,
aligned, very aligned.
yes,
Well,
I'm
and
very
I
much
also say,
aligned.
like, I can sit here and say that, and then I will literally, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't, you look great for 46. And I will sit and like have go to pieces because I'm like, I need a neck lift, I need a chin lift, I've got wrinkles. I mean, nobody's immune to, like beating themselves up. We're all there. It's just
Mhm.
maybe, the realm in which we do it,
Mhm.
I find myself like tearing myself down, but then I'm able to be like, okay, like practice what you preach. You can't be talking to yourself like
Mhm.
that. So again, it's a constant battle for everyone,
Mhm.
and I always really try to emphasize that it's not easy for anybody. And if
Mhm.
you're like following or, being led by someone who makes it look easy and just, basically never shares any challenges or, that they face, then they're just lying,
Mm.
you know,
Mhm. Yep.
because regardless of where you are, I mean, it takes effort for
Mhm.
everyone.
Yes. Yes. No, and I appreciate you pointing that out. I really do because that's a piece of it that's really hard too. Sometimes you come in and it's like anything, right? Sometimes I'm like I'm the shiny new car or I'm the shiny new toy or the brand new iPhone because I come in and I tell you that all of these things can be achieved or be accomplished if you follow this process.
So easy,
Right. You follow these 5 steps, and
Yep.
but to your point, it's like, but it's hard. It's
It's hard.
hard. And I always go back to what my mom used to say when we were growing up, like, anything worth having, anything worth accomplishing is going to be hard. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try it. It just means that there are going to be times when you're going to have that moment. You're like, I don't know what to do, or I don't know how to get through the next one, but I can figure it out. It's just going to take a little bit more time. It's going to be harder than I thought. And I think when it comes to health and wellness, that is the thing that we can unfortunately keep getting sold on such quick fixes instead of learning that, you could sit here and do all these quick fixes, or you could just plan out your year to really see yourself transform. Start in January, or heck, start today. I always tell people your
Yeah,
year does
start
not have to
today.
start January 1. It's like, oh, I cringe when I hear people
Start on
say,
a
well,
Wednesday
right, exactly. For me,
or
it's always,
Saturday. I'm like,
yeah,
start on
a
Saturday.
Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always been a Tuesday for me sometimes. I feel like Tuesdays, I don't know. It's like the work, if things
You
start
got to
going,
get
I'm
through
like,
that Monday, and then
that Monday.
you can focus on your health. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, dang it, now I'm going to do it. Now I'm doing it. It's
Yeah.
Tuesday. But yeah, I mean, I think so much of it is that we don't talk enough. Just like the worthiness piece, we don't address the fact that it's going to get hard and it's going to get difficult. And what do we do in those times?
Yeah.
Um,
And the goal is to make it easier, I mean, and I'm sure you do a lot of this with, when I talk about goal setting, it's like, okay, here's your goal. What's the barrier?
mhm,
What's going to pop up
mhm,
your life, because it's always I always say it's like that pivotal moment in your life that, causes you to completely derail, whether it's, somebody gets sick, or you go on vacation, or,
Mhm.
you lose your job, or, it's like where it's like, I don't have the capacity to focus on this. Therefore, I'm not going to do anything,
Mhm.
So identifying what those barriers are and how you can get through them or make them easier is the key.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, yes. I love, love, love that you've offered up a code for your program for listeners. So the code is vision. And I want you to share, and actually, you know what? Before I do this, I always ask all my guests, what is there? So part of my process and my program, I focus, of course, professional, personal development and goals, have people align what they want to accomplish personally, what are they working on academically, professionally, because I work with school children, everyone from school age children all the way to to corporate and entrepreneurs. The last piece of the goal setting process, though, is I always say, and what is that one goal that's not related to your personal, goals that you kind of see for yourself, the betterment of you personally or professionally, but what is just that one goal, the do the dang goal, like that you're like, I keep putting it off. And if I could just do this one daggone goal, like that would be honoring so much of what I say that I want to accomplish or get done. And for some people, it's like a trip. Some people, it's, I don't know, learn a language, it's whatever. But it's your do the dang goal, the one that, like, kind of like we were saying, how everyone else deserves that trip or everyone else deserves to have, their success and their time in the light, but I don't. The do the dang goal is kind of that reflection of what we think
Oh,
we might not deserve
well,
or
I
what
will
we keep putting
say
off.
my big do the dang goal was my TEDx talk. I definitely thought that was, nowhere in the realm of a possibility,
Oh,
to
wow.
do and at this point in my career. So that was really special. And, in terms of like, I guess, what is the next dang goal? Gosh, I don't know. I mean, the way you're framing it, I'm like, oh gosh, well, maybe my dang goal is to not work 24 hours a day. So, so here I am in like,
I love
this
it.
entrepreneurial space where
Mhm.
I've created this success, and, with success comes a lot of responsibility and this grind. And so,
Mhm.
now it's like I've reached all these things that I, set forth to do. And it's almost kind of like, now what, I mean,
Mhm.
now I need to figure out what the next dang goal is, but also it's more about, okay, how can I scale this back and actually, now live my life?
Mhm.
Like I definitely have sacrificed areas of my life in order to create this, entrepreneurial opportunity. And so it's kind of like now I'm in that focus of like, okay, now I want to shift and, enhance my personal life, my relationships, things
Mhm.
like that. So maybe that's the dang goal. And then, I mean, when I read the question leading up to the interview, I said, well, she's going to laugh at me, because literally the dang goal that's sitting in front of me that I keep writing on my list that I've been trying to do for the last 2 years that I just have not done is start a podcast.
I love it. No, oh my gosh. That would be amazing. Oh,
That is the goal. And I mean,
yes.
for all of you listening, this may seem very effortless just to hop on a call and talk to people, but it is a lot of effort
Yes.
to curate a
Yes.
podcast. And so it's just not something that I have, been able to curate as of now. So we'll see, TBD.
Oh, well, I will be your biggest cheerleader and I'll keep nudging you. I'll keep nudging you because that would be a fabulous podcast and I would listen. I would be one of your biggest fans.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much. I love what you do for women, for empowerment, but not just women, but men, anyone and everyone who works with you. I think that I just thank you for providing such a real approach to something that is a part of every single one of our lives, because our ability to be healthy and to be well is something that we sometimes take for granted when we build out the vision for the life we want to live. And I think we sometimes get these vivid pictures of what we think, but if we're not healthy in our heart, our mind, our soul, and physically in our body, then a lot of those goals that we are working towards aren't going to mean a dang good a difference, or or meaning, if we aren't taking care of ourselves and fueling ourselves in the way that we need to in order to be able to go out and tackle those goals every day. So I
Absolutely.
appreciate, yeah, what you do, and just your positivity and light that you bring into the world as well. And I will link your TED Talk because
Oh
it is
yeah.
fantastic. I love your TED
Breaking the
Talk.
all or nothing mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. And so go listen to that. We mentioned a minute ago that the code is Vision. So tell them about Lean, and I know you've got some upcoming programs launching as well,
Yeah,
or
so
sessions.
LEAN again stands for Living Energized and Nourished. It's a 7 week online kind of health and wellness program. It is about, doing the simple things consistently on a daily basis. The goal is to rev up your metabolism, improve your blood sugar regulation, and ultimately like teach you the why behind the basics. Why do these matter the most? And why doing them over and over are going to create the results that you're looking at, wanting to achieve. It's all run through my free private app. So there's like no social media needed and just tons of resources and support. I think what sets Lean apart from every other program out there is the daily support and accountability. I always say people basically, for the most part, know what to do. They just struggle to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the type of program that I've created, is that I want to hold you accountable. I want to hold your hand. I want to be there when you hit that barrier, when you're not sure how to navigate, a certain day or situation. And, if you do hit the barrier and fall off track, I want to be there to help you get back on track sooner than later. And so I think that that's, really what kind of sets the program apart. It's for everyone. It's for
Mm-hmm.
you. It's for your significant other. It's if you have thyroid issues, if you have diabetes, if you have Hashimoto's, whatever you're dealing with, because of the fact that we focus on foundational work, it's going to be beneficial for 99% of the population. Even if you don't have weight to lose,
Mm-hmm.
you just want to be healthier and
Right.
have more energy and be more vibrant. Or if you have 100 pounds to lose, we're all doing the same work. We all need the same things at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love the accountability piece. I'll just say that. That'll be my last little nugget. Sorry. I do love the accountability piece and I love that everyone is in there pumping each other up and sharing where they are. And it's just that it's creating that community of support and accountability, because like you said, so much of us know what to do. We just don't do what we know that we're supposed to do or that we should do.
That's
And
right.
so having that little, like you said, you have your little, like you're the angel, like
I'm
yes,
the angel.
you're the angel, yes. Inside the app are a lot of little angels just cheering you on, telling you, keep going, you're doing great, keep doing what you're doing. And there's just such a wealth of knowledge and recipes and so many different things. But I think what I love about it more than anything is it gives people also the power to have control over the way they live their life.
Yeah.
And that is such a gift that you give to people. So thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much. It's been awesome.
Yes. Awesome. Well, where can people find you? Because I know you mentioned social media, but yes, where can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, my website is amandanighbert.com. I am on every platform: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, leveraging them all. So, whichever one you like the best, you can find me there. But yeah, I mean, I kind of try to show up every day and provide valuable content. I'm not hiding any, weight loss secrets. I'm just here to give them away. And again, at the end of the day, help you become accountable, to those goals and everything. So lean, we have a session that starts about every 2 weeks. So when you're ready, I'm here for you.
Wonderful. Yes. And I think you have one coming up in October. Were there two dates in October?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Okay, so we will put that in the show notes. We'll link all of that there. The code will be Vision, and I hope to see a lot of our listeners creating the vision for their healthy health and wellness journey with you.
Me too. I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much.